Welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3HR Advisors and sponsored by Paychex, one of the leading providers of HR, payroll, retirement, and software solutions for businesses of all sizes. My name is Steve Boese. Men run most companies, yet the Meta CEO calls for more masculine energy. It started on January 7th when Meta announced the end of its third-party fact-checking program and overarching changes to its speech policies, which were quietly executed by a secretive small team within the $135 billion company. Less censorship, as Meta founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg put in a video, allows Facebook and Instagram users to call LGBTQ people mentally ill and describe women as household objects, and otherwise demean groups that have been politicized by the right, like transgender people. Former UK Deputy Prime Minister and Meta Global Affairs head Nick Clegg was replaced by Joel Kaplan, Zuckerberg's longtime emissary to the American right, whose name on Meta's blog post announcing these changes. Meta's pivot continued last week when the company told employees it would end its diversity, equity, and inclusion work, including eliminating the role of Chief Diversity Officer, according to the New York Times. Longtime Chief Diversity Officer Maxine Williams was reassigned to a new role which would be focused on accessibility and engagement, and the company would no longer abide by diversity goals that set targets for hiring women and people of color and prioritize diverse businesses as vendors, according to the Times reports. Then Zuckerberg appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast, where the pair had a long exchange about gender roles in corporate America. Ultimately, Zuckerberg said that corporate America has gone too far in embracing feminine energy and become culturally neutered, and that companies have lacked masculine energy. This conversation started when Rogan and Zuckerberg discussed how his newfound passion for MMA fighting and jiu-jitsu had affected his view of corporate culture. Martial arts seemed to be central to how Zuckerberg is defining masculine energy, a culture that celebrates aggression a bit more. He said that after a lifetime surrounded by women, his 3 sisters and 3 daughters, getting into martial arts turned on a part of his brain that had been missing. He said, "It's one thing to say we want to be welcoming and make a good environment for everyone, and it's another thing to say masculinity is bad. We swung culturally to that part of the spectrum. Masculinity is toxic and we have to get rid of it." He then considered the female perspective. If you're a woman going into a company, it probably feels like it is too masculine. It probably feels like there are all these things that are set up that are biased against you. You want women to be able to succeed and have companies that can unlock all the value from having great people, no matter what their background or gender. So if Zuckerberg readily admits that for women, the corporate world already feels too masculine and that as a woman you will have to fight against that often toxic masculinity to succeed, how then can he justify calling for more masculine energy in workplaces? And let's also consider Zuckerberg's definition of masculine energy. It seems to be wrapped around the idea of aggression, like we see in MMA fights, which is a limited and simplistic view of masculinity. Plus, if you look around corporate America, masculine energy is distinctly not lacking. It's at the top of 89% of Fortune 500 companies today whose CEOs are men. Masculine energy has dominated the business world for centuries, and it's only in the last decade or two in which women's leadership has begun to have any influence on how businesses operate at scale. And what about the significant number of women who have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace? Sexual harassment in the workplace remains a serious issue for women in the United States. A range of studies indicate that as many as 54% to 81% of women have experienced some form of sexual harassment during their careers. The forms of sexual and other types of harassment reported by women include unwelcome sexual advances, bullying, and racism. Now let's be perfectly clear. Sexual harassment at work is vastly perpetuated by men, and the victims are almost always women. More masculine energy at work only works for one group, men, and the data show that men have almost all the workplace power already. If anything, these comments from Zuckerberg are a sign of just how far the culture has shifted. Zuckerberg felt comfortable as a Fortune 500 CEO having this kind of conversation in a public forum. With more companies backtracking from DEI initiatives in the face of increased online conservative activism, and a prominent CEO like Zuckerberg openly calling for more masculine energy at work, women and traditionally underrepresented groups are facing a workplace that feels less inclusive, less welcoming, and for many, less safe. and that's a sad indictment of corporate America as we begin 2025. We will continue to follow this and all the important topics and trends of the world of work here on the HR Happy Hour Media Network. That's it for the Workplace Minute, powered by H3 HR Advisors.